In class tonight, we were talking about the encounter of Moses upon the mountain, Mount Sinai, of when he asked God to see his glory. And God grants his request, but he also tells him that you'll not be able to look upon my face because no one can see my face and live. But we show the relationship between Moses and God here. It's amazing, much more and beyond anything that we have seen so far with even Abraham, because it just a few verses before that, in verse 11 of Exodus 33. It says, "Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses returned to the camp, his servant Joshua, the son of Nun," well, the point I want to make tonight is God had such a relationship with Moses that he put it in the Bible that he would speak to Moses face to face as a man would with a friend. And that shows a very unique relationship. And I believe it's probably the relationship that God was seeking with men, even back from the Garden of Eden. God wants to be with his creation, with his man that he created. And he seeks a relationship between God and man. But it's interesting to see in verse 11, it says God spoke with Moses face to face. And then down here in verse 20, he says, "But you cannot see my face, for no man can see me and live." So with that speaking with Moses, what actually was going on when Moses and God were speaking? And it says, as a man would speak with a friend face to face. Well, apparently Moses wasn't seeing God's face, but the relationship was still there. It was talking about Moses set up a tent outside the camp. And when he would go into the camp, the presence of God would descend on this tent. And everybody would pay attention when he did, because they'd all stand at the door of their tent and they would watch Moses go into the tent and the cloud descending on the tent. And then God and Moses would speak together in that tent. Well, maybe the cloud covered God's face where he couldn't see. He could have been in the presence of God face to face. Maybe the cloud just put a veil between the two where Moses couldn't see God's face. However it was, there was still a unique relationship. So when Moses is saying, "I want to see your glory," in verse 18 he says, "I pray you show me your glory." And God makes an arrangement where he can grant that request. But he says, "You're not going to see my face, but what I'll do," it says, "there's a rock up there that's built in a cleft. I'll put you in that rock. And as I pass by, I'm going to put my hand in front of you. So when I pass by, you will not see me. But when I get past, I'll remove my hand, and then you'll see the backside of me. So you will still see my glory. You just won't see my face." So he does that very thing. He puts Moses in that rock. And it shows a great relationship, because he's trying to grant the request that Moses has made. "I want to see your glory." And God says, "Okay, I'll show it to you. But I'm going to protect you so that you won't be harmed in the process." And that shows a great mercy on God's part. He protects his creation. He protects you and me from things that are going to be very damaging or harmful to us. So it's really interesting thing going on there. I think it was amazing, the relationship between Moses and God. And God speaks to Moses, and Moses is speaking to God. And some of the things that Moses speaks to is he sounds really bold in what he asks for a lot of times. And I guess that's the relationship between friends. And sometimes we have friends, and sometimes we have hard conversations, but we're still friends because we love each other. And we want to take care and want the best for each other. God wanted the best for Moses and his people, and therefore he granted that request. But it's just an awesome kind of thing that it gives us a greater respect for the Lord. He's trying to fulfill the requests made by Moses. And he does that because he thought so much of Moses. In verse 17, it says, I will also do this thing of which you have spoken, for you have found favor in my sight, and I have known you by name. Wouldn't that be great if God could say that to us? You have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name. That's an amazing thing as Christians we can say. And we can say that because God or Jesus has made that possible, where Moses didn't have Jesus as of yet, but he still found favor in God's sight because he was so particular on trying to do what God wanted. And we know he wasn't perfect. He failed. He had just a chapter or two before destroyed the Ten Commandments after God had created the tablets and wrote all the Ten Commandments with his own finger. And Moses comes down and he throws them down on the ground and destroys them. Well, this is the time he's back up there again with those other 2 new tablets that he had made, and God writes the Ten Commandments on them again. So God is very forgiving, isn't he? And even though we all have shortcomings, Moses had his shortcomings, but he also still found great favor in God's sight. That's what we need to seek, great favor in God's sight. And we know we're not perfect. We fall a lot of the times. We fall short. We fall on our face. But if it wasn't for Jesus Christ, we would not find favor with God. We follow Jesus. We love him because we know what he has done for us, the sacrifice that he had made for us. And we have favor in the sight of God because Jesus went to that cross. And we respect Jesus, and we serve him, and we love him, and we try our best to obey him, and God has found favor. We have found favor of God because of that. So, if there's anyone tonight that needs anything, if you want to find that favor with God and you're struggling maybe you know that you need something that you need to bring forward that we can pray about, if you're struggling with a sin, or if you're just having a tough time, or whatever the case may be, would you make it known as we stand and sing?
Number 2. Cleansed and made holy.